Hello and welcome back to the ministry, and today I'm doing another movie review. But catch this, I didn't actually watch this movie last night. This is a movie that I have watched easily over 40 times. I sat down last night and wrote down a full outline of the movie from memory. I can watch something, especially something that was my favorite, so many times that I will remember line by line what the people said in the film, scene by scene, decor, street, everything. This is how well I knew this movie. I didn't even have to watch the movie. So I didn't even watch the movie last night to do this review. The first week I had this movie, I remember I was 14 years old. My mom got it from Blockbuster, and I drove my mother crazy because I probably in that 1 week watched it 14 times. And from then till now, I've probably watched it the other 26 times. But, yeah. So when I say I didn't need to watch the movie to do this review, I didn't need to watch the movie. So we gonna go from my notes, and then we're going to let the Lord speak. So, Lord, give me your words how you desire for me to say them in this content. I was speaking to the Lord a little earlier about that because I knew he wanted me to do this, and I was like, do you want me to do both sides of this? And he said, touch on the flip side, so I know what I'm doing with this. This film talks about a woman who is a restaurateur. She is a local restaurant chef, and she has an encounter with a situation that leads her to her spouse. So the fact of the matter is, for this, it can literally speak to kingdom marriage. It can speak to the homemaker part of you. And it also will speak to the counterfeit. And I'm going to show you how that works. Okay? So the film begins. It's a young woman walking to the local market in New York City. So for me, this was relevant because I'm from New York. She's walking through the local market saying hello to everybody. You're that female. You're the woman who is jovial, you're happy, you're kind to everybody, you say hello to everybody, you're seemingly that perfect woman that people will walk up to you and say, why aren't you married? So she walks up to the mart. She goes to her favorite stall at the local food market, open market, and she says hello to the guy behind the counter, and she asks for her famous order. Give me the portobello mushrooms, give me this, give me the crabs. He tells her, we're out of that, but we still have your crabs and your portobello mushrooms. Let me get that. And she said, what happened to the crabs? He explains, oh, the new restaurateur guy over there is buying up everything. He points. When he points, she looks and sees this dude in a suit and a guy in a full chef's uniform making a fuss at the other stall. So, when she sees them, another gentleman to one of her sides, I can remember if the left or the right, says, oh, you noticed him. when it comes down to your kingdom spouse, God was the one that gave you the first wink to let you know, oh, you see him, don't you? For all of my ladies that know who their kingdom spouse is, oh, you've seen him. Oh, you noticed him. Y'all seen him. God gave you a little tug to let you know that's your guy. But you didn't recognize him. So she turns and looks at this gentleman that's wearing a full white suit and a hat with a light red shirt on underneath it and glasses. And she's like, hi, how are you doing? And he gives her a weird statement, but the guy that's bringing her order from the stall she's standing in front of hands her her stuff. And as he's explaining to her, your mother doesn't want you to XYZ. And she's like, my mother? And before she can really pay attention, the guy says, oh, don't let that crab get away. It's a crab that was in her bag that managed to crawl away. She freaks out, jumps down on the floor, and starts crawling after the crab. She crawls under the table, she crawls under, and when she reaches underneath the curtain or the tablecloth, thinking that she saw the crab go that way, she ends up slamming her hand down on the guy in the suit's foot, saying, gotcha, thinking it was a crab. She comes out now realizing she grabbed his foot. So some of y'all have had some interesting run-ins with your God-ordained spouse. Seemingly, it was a setup by the Lord. It was awkward, it was inconvenient, and he probably didn't notice you in that moment because it was that weird of an incident. Whatever your incident is. You know what your incident is? I don't know what your incident is, but somebody had an incident. So she comes out, stands up, dusts herself off, and says, oh, my crab, he was gonna bite you. And he's like, your crab? Because he's like, really? Kind of trying to figure out whether she's telling the truth or she's crazy. And she's like, yeah, I have a restaurant, and you know, because I have this restaurant, I'm be serving crab. And see, that crab got away, and he said, where's your crab? Instantaneously, the crab seems to reach its claw out and snap at his ankle, which makes him realize, oh, there is a crab. So she reaches down and grabs it and stuffs it in her bag. Now, she's like, oh, he's going to be lunch at my restaurant. And he's like, what's the name of your restaurant? And she's like, oh, it's the Southern Cross. It's in town. You should try to like stop by sometime. He said, yeah, I'll do that. And they part ways. Y'all had a awkward first meeting. Now, she goes to leave after that awkward incident. The guy, he says, your mother wants you to, it's something in relation to her love life. And she was confused by that, but she let it go because of that awkward situation. So she left, going back to the restaurant. And when she comes in, her aunt's just got off the phone, and her aunt's saying, we need to talk. And she's like, what? What's wrong? The aunt says that for a while they haven't been able to make the rent at the restaurant. They were just trying to stay afloat, and now the rent's gone up by some ungodly amount, like 2 or 3 times the amount that they were already paying, and they could barely pay what they were paying already, so they were going to have to close. And they didn't have enough customers to sustain that change. And she's upset, but she doesn't know what else to do. Meanwhile, you have the guy. Pardon me, I do not remember what his name is. I believe his real name is Sean Patrick Thomas, but I can't think of what his character's name was. But we just gonna call him Kingdom Spouse in this situation. It works for our scenario. So he goes back to his office. He works in like a major department store, like Barney's or Macy's or something like that. But he comes in, and his assistant, when he gets upstairs to the offices, his assistant tracks him in the hallway and says, "Hey, how you doing?" And he's like, "I'm good. I had an interesting." She's like, "Your girlfriend called you." She's like, oh. He's like, "Oh God, there's this woman in his life at this time that he actually wants to get rid of. Your God-ordained spouse. Some of you, your God-ordained spouse. As you're coming into the situation, your God-ordained spouse is preparing to leave his situation. Some of y'all, he's already done it. But right now, some of y'all, he's trying to desperately get out of the situation that he's in. But he's trying to figure out a smooth way to get out. So what he does is he's talking to her, and she's like, yeah, she wants to have lunch with you. And they go into his office, and he sees his calendar on his LED television is changed. She's like, "What in the world?" She's like, "She synced her schedule up with you." And he's like, "Oh, she gotta go. She gotta go. I can't." And she's like, "Got commitment issues?" Because he's very straight-laced, this is how everything's supposed to go. I do this, my schedule goes like this, I know where my schedule is, and most women don't last past the third date. And she's like, "And what's today's date?" He's like, "Yeah, this is the third date for her. She gotta go." And she's like, "You're afraid of commitment." And he's like, "I am not afraid of commitment. I just don't like people intruding on my space." So he has this very structured lifestyle. Your guy, he has a pattern with the women that he's been with. He knows just how long to hold on to the woman before he lets them go. Or, in some of your cases, he was in a relationship with somebody that he spent a long period of time with, and this was like their second, third go round. And he's trying to get away from her permanently this time. But it's an exit point. It's like he's trying to get away. It's like it's reached its capacity and it's done. It's like she thinks that this time is the time that it's going to actually work. He's like, "No, I want her gone. I don't want her no more." So he's trying to get rid of her. And she may have looked like she was good, but she was a problem. I've heard a guy say before, sometimes you look at a rose looks good, but it has thorns. I saw a picture, and I was going to do this as a short. I might still do it as a short. It's a picture of two pears. One pear is covered in mold, but if you look at the mold at first glance, It actually looks like a sugary crumb coating that has like if you took a pear, dipped it in sugar, dipped it in syrup, and then poured cinnamon on top of it. And the way that it would look with that cinnamon brown sugar just stuck on it, that's what it looks like. Meaning, at first glance, this person may look like they're sweet and good to the taste, but it's leaning up against another pear that part of it has created that same thing on the tip of the second pear. It looks good at first glance, but when you look closer, it's poisonous, it's molded, it's nasty, and it's trying to poison what it's attached to. That's what these women are or have been to these men. Okay? So when let me check my time. When he's trying to get away. Meanwhile, at the Southern Cross, Amanda, our main character, she is standing in the main dining room with their few regular customers. It's like 2 tables of customers, and the sous chef is a black guy that she's friends with, and her aunt, and they're all sitting there talking about the closing of the restaurant. And she herself feels like a failure because the restaurant was her mother's restaurant, and she's been the one that's been cooking at the restaurant this whole time. And she feels like, I'm sorry I failed you all. And they are seeing her emotion because she's welling up in tears. And they're like, oh, we loved the food. The food was great here. She's like, now y'all know y'all ain't come here for no food. Y'all just came here because y'all like to come and talk to each other every day. And then she freaks out and runs out. Now, the guy, because the woman had scheduled a lunch date for the 2 of them, were going to go to a restaurant down the street from the Southern Cross. But the cabbie was the same guy that she met at the Mart stand. Never interacted with him, but he was driving the cab, wearing the exact same suit. You would think that he might have been an angel of some sort, maybe, trying to make sure that they got together. There are people that the Lord has positioned in your God-ordained spouse's life and your life to make absolute certain these are prophetic, angelic presences to make sure that the 2 of you cross paths. He don't care how many times he got to do it. Y'all gonna cross paths and y'all gonna get together. The timing is right and the timing is now, and he's gonna make sure the 2 of you cross paths at the appropriate time. So, I don't even know why I'm looking at the note because I'm not even paying any attention to it because I know this movie that well. But you're going to cross paths at the right time. So they were both, this is how much you could tell that neither one of these people were into each other because they're on their phone on business chats, not even speaking to each other in the cab. They didn't even realize that the guy dropped them off at the wrong location until they got out of the cab and started looking around and were like, wait, we're in the wrong place. And the woman walks up to her and says, hey, we're trying to find the restaurant. And she named whatever that restaurant was. And Amanda was trying to get herself together because she had slid down the wall and was crying and all that stuff. So she stood up when she saw them coming because when she recognized him, she was like, oh no. So she was like, So she gets herself together, wipes her face. The woman, she's like, hey, hi, sorry, where's this restaurant? Because she wearing this white suit and she got her hair in this nice straight bob. She looks like what is supposed to be standing next to this guy. She really does. He can't stand her. You may have run across, seen pictures, seen images, had a run in with your God-ordained spouse's previous girlfriend. And you were looking at this woman like, this chick is perfect. This chick looks like she's supposed to be with this man. Why in the world would he ever leave somebody like this for me? Which you do not know as the observer on the outside. He can't stand this woman. He's trying to get away from this woman. He will smile and they'll be standing together. But he's sitting there trying to figure out where's my exit route and how fast can I get away from her. When can I leave this woman? And how can I do it in such a way that she doesn't make a fuss or a fit when this happens? So, she says the restaurant's down the street. She points down the street, then the guy sees her instantaneous. It's like automatic. He sees Amanda and is like, oh, hey, weren't you the woman I saw this morning at the mart? And she's like, oh, yeah, hi, how you doing? And she's like, yeah. And he's looking at her. Now he's got tunnel vision. He's already looking at her. His eyes are only on her. Them two are having a conversation, and the girlfriend is standing there trying to get his attention, and it ain't happening. He's not even, it's like he's already mesmerized by this woman. And he starts talking about, so you said you were going to cook that crab this morning. So you said you had some good crab Napoleon. So why don't we just have lunch here? And he never takes his eyes off of her. And she's like, okay, come on in. And she stood there like, oh Lord, now I gotta actually cook what I said. And he comes in. She makes sure that the aunt gets the table for the two of them. And she goes in the back. And her friend, who's the sous chef, the black guy, is standing there. He's like, what's going on? She's like, oh my God. The guy from the place this morning, he's outside. And he wants crab Napoleon. And his girlfriend wants like chicken and mashed potatoes, but I don't know how to cook crab Napoleon. He's like that cool, nonchalant black dude that's like, then just tell him to leave. We already know we closing, so like, just tell him to scram. Like, you know you can't cook it, so tell him to get out. And she's like, I can't do that. And he looks at her like, for real? Really? And she's like, and then he's got this girl and she's here and she's got her perfect hair, and she starts pulling the chicken out and starts beating on the chicken because she's there with her perfect hair and her perfect this and her perfect that. How many of us? Did you see his ex? Did you see the type of women that you may not have even seen the woman that he was actually with, but you see the type of women that he hangs out with. You seen them. And you were like, they're perfect. Look at me. I look like perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect suit, perfect. They're perfect. Perfect body. Why? And she beat the hell out of that chicken on that table, talking about how perfect this woman was. She was thoroughly upset. And her sous chef, she's like, calm down. I don't know what's wrong with you. And he's like, well, what are we going to do about the crab Napoleon? She's like, I don't know. I don't have a recipe for that. It is. He's like, well, I'm sure we got something. You're like, your mother, did she have recipes upstairs or something? She's like, good idea. Maybe she has something. So I'll go up there and I'll look. He's like, yeah, you do that and I'll figure out something down here. I'll get the something. Meanwhile, the crab, remember that crab that was crawling around? He crawls up and crawls up on top of one of the high top shelves, so he has a perfect vantage point to look at everything. It was something very animated about that crab, literally and figuratively. But anyway, she goes upstairs, and meanwhile, everybody's out front. They're observing this guy. He's in there and he's talking with the girlfriend, and the girlfriend's talking. She ain't stopped talking the whole time. And he's sitting there trying to figure out how am I going to break up with her. And everybody else is just watching. Everybody that knows Amanda is just watching. It's like, who is this person? What is this? And all this type of stuff. I wonder, you know, your goddamn spouse has enough status that when he comes into your personal space, it's going to start conversation with the people that you know. Especially if they see him with whoever it was that he was with before. Whether they see a photo of him, whether they see whatever. They've seen who he's, the types of people he's been with. Meanwhile, he's sitting there trying to figure out, okay, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna break up with her. Meanwhile, Amanda comes back downstairs. She's got on the earrings that belong to her mother. Some of y'all have something that when it comes down to your creative ability, you could probably pinpoint. Oh, my mom gave me that. My dad gave me that. Gave me this. And you hold dear anything that belonged to this person. The person may no longer be living, so on and so forth. So when she puts the earrings on, she feels more connected to her mother. So she sits there and starts working on the crab Napoleon. She got the crab's been cooked, so on and so forth. So she's trying to figure out now how to prepare it. And she starts trying to prepare it, and she's like, I want to create something that's decadent, that's this. And she starts describing what she wants this meal to come out to be. Pause. For you, as the kingdom wife, I'm going to do this two ways. You, as the kingdom wife, have been preparing. You have been preparing to be the wife, the cook, the person that is the homemaker, and you've been speaking, for as you speak it out your mouth, it will manifest. You've been speaking the type of relationship you wanted with your goddamn spouse. You've been speaking over it exactly the type of outcome you wanted. You've been praying into it. You've been praying over your goddamn spouse. If the Lord let you know what his name was, you've been praying for him. You've been praying into every area of his life that the Lord have his will happen into his life. You've been praying against anything. Take that moment, like the moment in which she was flipping out over the food in relation to the other woman. If the Lord lets you know about the other woman, some of y'all, especially if you knew witchcraft was going on, just like she went in on that chicken, you went in the spirit. If you even felt an inkling there was witchcraft going on, you went in the spirit realm and you spoke over it. You spoke that the Lord's will happen in order for the counterfeit to be separated from that situation. So that the Lord's desired manifestation of the correct relationship manifest. Now, this is where I'm going to do the deviation with the food. As we know, I've taught before. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, I have enough time to do this. As we know, as I've taught before, that when it comes down to kingdom marriage, what the enemy will do is send in an identical duplicate of you that is almost exactly his type in order to keep him where he is. This may be somebody that's been in his life for a long period of time that has a resemblance, whether it be in action to you or in an actual physical resemblance, or it's going to be somebody that the enemy sends in at the last minute. This is the last ditch effort. He sends in a counterfeit that is your identical. I've told you this before. There's been situations and scenarios in my life where just before I showed up, somebody would have comes and tells me, "Hey, weren't you here before?" I was like, "Here before? What are you talking about? I haven't been here before. What are you talking about?" It was like 3 hours ago, I saw somebody that looked exactly like you. It was just here. They're like, "What? Huh? What do you mean? I ain't been here before. I just walked out my house and I took the bus and I got here. What are you talking about? You never been here before?" Walk to the library. Woman walks up. "Oh, did you find the nail salon? I see you got your nails done." That morning, do my nails in my house. Woman walks up to me. "Did you go to the nail salon? I remember I talked to you about a half an hour ago. You said you were going to the nail salon or an hour or so ago. And did you get them done? I see that your nails are done." It's like, excuse me? The counterfeit comes just before the real thing. Went into the bookstore at my college. "Hey, weren't you just here?" "I just walked in this building. I don't know who you are. I've never met you. This is my first day." What are you talking about? "Oh, I met somebody completely across town. They had red hair, looked just like you. Her skin was a little bit lighter than you." Exact. Counterfeit comes before the real thing. What I want to say here is your God-ordained spouse met a counterfeit. And that counterfeit may have performed a spell, blood ritual, and or ritual on his food. Think about this. Counterfeit doing a, not word curse. You were praying to pray his separation from this. The counterfeit was praying over his food and potentially putting something in it to put him under a spell to be kept. Okay? I'm going to come back in the next part because we ran out of time here. So, coming back in part 2. Bye-bye.